You never forget the last time you see your child. The sound of their laugh. The shape of their shadow walking away. For Tanya Willis, it was a breezy Saturday afternoon in Atlanta. Just another mall trip with her daughter Jasmine. Tanya watched her 16-year-old wave goodbye, promising to be back in 2 hours. But Jasmine never came home. And for 15 years, there were no answers. Until Tanya saw a woman on national TV, smiling next to a man she swore had taken everything from her. Tanya Willis had always called herself an overthinker. A single mother working 2 jobs, she hovered around her daughter Jasmine like a storm cloud. Jasmine was her only child, her miracle baby born after a complicated pregnancy that doctors said wouldn't make it to term. So Tanya treasured every hug, every birthday, every scraped knee. It was March 19, 2009, a warm, pre-spring Saturday in East Atlanta. Jasmine had just gotten her learner's permit and begged Tanya to let her meet friends at the Southridge Mall. Just 2 hours, Mama. We're going to look at prom dresses. That's it. I'll call if I'm late. Tanya hesitated. Her gut twisted, like it always did when Jasmine was out of sight. But Jasmine had never given her reason to worry before. So Tanya relented. All right, 2 hours. And if you're a minute late, I'm calling the police, she joked, hugging her daughter tightly. Jasmine laughed. That laugh, that soft musical sound, was the last thing Tanya ever heard from her daughter. Surveillance footage from that day showed Jasmine entering the mall at 3:08 p.m. She wore a red hoodie, ripped jeans, and black and white Converse sneakers. She stopped by the food court, bought a smoothie, then headed toward the second-floor department store. And then, nothing. No footage of her exiting. No record of her leaving with anyone. No signs of struggle. It was like Jasmine had vanished into thin air. By 6 p.m., Tanya had called her daughter's phone over a dozen times. It went straight to voicemail. By 8 p.m., she was filing a missing persons report. Scene: police station. The Atlanta PD assigned Detective Harold Reeves to the case. Reeves was a father of 3 girls himself and promised Tanya he would treat the case as if it were his own child. We'll find her, Ms. Willis. I need you to hold on. But days turned to weeks, and weeks turned into years. Every camera angle at the mall had been reviewed. Employees questioned. Friends interrogated. Rumors spread that Jasmine had run away. Some claimed she was seen getting into a black SUV. Others said they saw her near the parking lot crying. None of it led anywhere. Tanya never believed Jasmine ran away. She didn't even take her phone charger. She didn't take her favorite necklace. She didn't take her journals. She didn't run away. Somebody took her. Tanya printed thousands of flyers, posted on every forum, every missing person's website. She appeared on local news, held candlelight vigils every year on the mall steps. But the trail was always cold. On the 5th year, Jasmine was declared legally dead. But Tanya refused to believe it. It was a rainy Sunday in February 2024. Tanya had just returned from church and was folding laundry while the TV played in the background. That's when it happened. A national segment on the American Dream Awards was airing. A human interest piece about a philanthropist couple who had donated millions to women's shelters across the Midwest. As the camera panned over the smiling couple, him in a navy suit, her in a red dress, Tanya's hands froze. She dropped the laundry basket. There, smiling into the camera, was a woman who looked exactly like Jasmine. Same dimples. Same almond eyes. Same nervous laugh. Tanya dropped to her knees. "That's my baby," she whispered. "That's my Jasmine." She scrambled for her phone and rewound the footage. Replayed it. Froze it. Her fingers trembled as she zoomed into the woman's face. There was a faint scar on her right cheek, exactly where Jasmine had won from a bike accident at age 9. "Jasmine?" Tanya whispered again, tears filling her eyes. She checked the credits. The woman's name, Julia Madsen, listed as the wife of billionaire tech entrepreneur Dr. Alan Madsen. Tanya stared at the screen, heart pounding. That's not Julia. That's Jasmine Willis. And I don't care who he is, He has my daughter." Tanya drove straight to the Atlanta Police Department. She demanded to speak to someone, anyone. But most of the officers she had known 15 years ago were gone. Files had been archived. Her case, long buried. But she didn't stop. She made copies of the TV segment, printed freeze frames of the woman's face. She even contacted facial recognition experts online. One nonprofit agreed to help, and after 3 days, they confirmed it with 94% certainty. Julia Madsen was Jasmine Willis. But how? Where had she been for 15 years? And why? Why didn't she remember her own mother? "I was raised in Wisconsin. My parents passed when I was young. Dr. Madsen helped me find my purpose." Tanya played that clip over and over. She's lying. Or someone's lying to her. But the more Tanya dug into Dr. Madsen, the darker things got. He was a former neuroscience professor turned AI tech mogul. Rumors of cult-like gatherings on his estate. Female assistants who quit suddenly and never spoke publicly again. No criminal records. No lawsuits. Just whispers. Until Tanya found one article, buried in the archives of a local Madison, Wisconsin newspaper. The headline: "Woman found wandering near Madsen estate in 2012 claims she woke up there after years in the dark." Her name was never revealed. But Tanya now had a lead. Tanya booked a one-way flight to Wisconsin. She had no money. No hotel booked. Just one mission. If she won't come back to me, I'm going to her. But as she stepped off the plane and turned on her phone, a message pinged from an unknown number. It simply read, "Stop asking questions. Julia is happy. Leave it alone." Tanya froze. Her hands shook. Who had her number? And more importantly, how did they know she was coming? Tanya sat frozen in the back seat of a cab, phone still glowing in her hand. The message was simple. Too simple. Like whoever sent it didn't think she'd fight back. But they didn't know Tanya Willis. "I gave birth to that girl. I raised her. I know her eyes. I know her smile. And if she's in trouble, I'm not leaving until I get her out." She deleted the message, took a breath, and whispered to herself, "You waited 15 years, Jasmine. Mama's coming." Dr. Alan Madsen wasn't just any tech mogul. He was a former neuroscience prodigy with a gift for AI development, psychology, and behavioral control. He owned a sprawling estate outside of Madison, 40 acres of manicured lawns, forested trails, and a fortress-like mansion with its own gate security team. Tanya stared at the gates from a distance, tucked behind her hoodie, using binoculars she borrowed from a pawn shop. And there she was, on the garden path, dressed in red again. Julia. No, Jasmine. She was laughing beside 2 children, a girl and a boy. Her hair was longer, her posture a little more refined, but her eyes were the same. Tanya gasped. She has kids. What happened over the next 72 hours pushed Tanya into a rabbit hole of secrets, surveillance, and a trail of hidden stories buried by money and influence. She started by going to the local newspaper office that ran the strange 2012 article about a woman waking up at the Madsen estate. The reporter, Emily Vega, was no longer working there. But a friendly intern gave Tanya a forwarding email. She reached out. The reply came within hours. "Meet me at Crescent Cafe. Bring no one." They deleted my article, but I kept the original draft. Emily Vega was in her late 30s now, worn down by years of silence. I knew they'd come after me for that article. That woman in 2012, she had no ID, no memory. She kept asking for someone named Tanya. Tanya's eyes widened. She remembered me. Emily nodded, then slid a flash drive across the table. This never made it to print, but she said something chilling before she disappeared from the clinic she was brought to. Tanya clicked play on Emily's laptop. Recorded voice. Distorted but real. "He tells me my name is Julia, but I keep seeing a yellow hoodie and my mama's voice. I think I used to be someone else. Tanya gasped. It was Jasmine's voice. Slurred, groggy, but unmistakable. Emily continued. The woman, your daughter, was taken back to the Madsen estate 2 days after that interview. Their legal team showed up with some state documents claiming she had mental illness. Claimed you were abusive and that she had no family. Then they silenced the report and shut everything down. Tanya's heart dropped. But she was my baby. They stole her memory. Or rewrote it, Emily whispered. Alan Madsen was working on something called neurobehavioral re-imprinting, using trauma victims to test brainwashing methods in isolated settings. There had been rumors, a leaked medical patent, a withdrawn university grant. Madsen's early experiments involved sensory deprivation, light therapy, and memory erasure. Some thought it was science fiction. Others believed it was the work of a man who wanted to mold people like clay. And Jasmine, Tanya's daughter, may have been his first success. Tanya couldn't sleep. She stared at the flash drive, replaying Jasmine's voice over and over. My mama's voice. That night, she posted a blurred photo of Jasmine from the estate on a private Reddit forum for missing persons. She captioned it, "Need help. Think this is my daughter, abducted in 2009. She doesn't know who she is. Help me expose him." The next morning, her inbox exploded. One message stood out. It was from a woman named Carmen, who had also been employed at the Madsen estate and escaped. She wanted to meet. Carmen was in her late 20s, pale, thin, eyes constantly scanning the shadows. I worked in the nursery. Those 2 kids, Julia's, they're not hers. They're adopted from undocumented mothers. One of them tried to run. I never saw her again. Is she being held against her will? Tanya asked, her voice cracking. Asterisk, that's the thing, Carmen whispered. They don't think they're being held. He messes with their memories. She truly believes she's Julia now. So what do I do? Carmen pulled out a small keycard. I never told anyone I kept this. It's the back gate to the estate. But listen, if you go in there, you have to be ready. Because the second he finds out, he'll bury the truth again. Just like he buried her past. Tanya sat alone in her hotel room, holding the keycard. She stared at her phone. At the photo of Jasmine, aged 16, smiling in a yellow hoodie. And then the photo of Julia on the garden trail with 2 children. Same girl. Different life. Asterisk, you didn't ask for this, Tanya whispered. But you're still mine. And I'm not leaving you behind. She zipped up her coat, tied her sneakers, and slid the keycard into her back pocket. She was going in. Tanya crept along the outer tree line. The wind howled. Branches creaked. The lights from the estate shimmered behind a veil of mist. She found the back gate, slid the card through the scanner. Click. The lock disengaged. She stepped inside. But before she could take another step, a beam of white light flashed across her face. A deep, mechanical voice echoed from a hidden speaker. You are trespassing. Identify yourself immediately. Tanya froze. The camera whirred. The light brightened. And then the gate slammed shut behind her. Tanya stood frozen. The cold spotlight bleached her face white. Somewhere above, a camera buzzed. Then a mechanical voice again. You have 5 seconds to identify yourself. She didn't answer. Her breath fogged the air. Her hands trembled, one clenched around a photo of Jasmine she'd kept in her jacket pocket since 2009. She whispered to herself, If you're in there, baby, I'm not leaving without you. Suddenly, the spotlight cut out. Then, silence. No sirens. No guards. Just the faint rustle of pine trees and the sound of her heart pounding in her ears. She stepped forward. One step into a truth that had eluded her for 15 years. The estate was eerily quiet. The ground stretched wide, illuminated in patches by moonlight and discreetly buried LEDs. To the left, a greenhouse. To the right, a low-sitting guest house. In the center, towering above the rest, was the mansion. Modern, sterile, glass-heavy. Tanya ducked low behind the garden wall, moving with practiced stealth. She had studied this place for days, mapped its layout from drone footage and satellite images. She wasn't just a grieving mother anymore. She was a woman on a mission. She made her way through the side entrance of the greenhouse. Rows of exotic plants filled the humid air with the scent of lavender, mint, and something more chemical. Suddenly, voices. 2 women passed by the far corridor, one pushing a cart. Dr. Madsen says she'll start the new treatment next week. Is she stable? She's still having flashes, dreams, names she can't explain. Last night she called him Coach. Tanya's heart stopped. That was Jasmine's old track coach. He was the one who introduced Jasmine to the mall security internship that summer. The same coach who mysteriously moved out of state weeks after Jasmine's disappearance. Tanya ducked back behind the aloe trees, holding her breath. They were trying to erase her daughter, piece by piece. Through the glass greenhouse, Tanya spotted movement. A small boy and girl were chasing a dog across the lawn. The same children she'd seen with Julia in the video footage. She inched closer, careful not to draw attention. They laughed and ran toward a small cottage-like structure near the back edge of the estate. The girl paused and looked toward Tanya's direction, almost as if sensing something. She had Jasmine's eyes. Tanya pressed her hand to her chest, tears forming. You're a grandma, Jasmine, and you don't even know it. Using the passkey Carmen had slipped her, Tanya accessed the side door of the main house. Every corridor was immaculate. White marble floors, dark wooden walls, silent. She reached a staircase leading downward. The basement. It wasn't on the official layout. She followed her instincts. Each step creaked softly. The air turned colder. At the base of the stairs, she found a thick door, no handle. Just a biometric scanner. Suddenly, behind her, a soft metallic click. Tanya spun around. A woman in a nurse's uniform stared at her, shocked. Who are you? Tanya froze. But before she could answer, the nurse's face went pale. You're her. You're the woman in the photos. Tanya grabbed her wrist gently. Where's Jasmine? The woman's voice trembled. You shouldn't be here. If he finds out you're inside. I don't care. I saw my daughter on TV. I know she's here. And you know it too. The nurse hesitated, then nodded toward a security room. She swiped her card and waved Tanya inside. Monitors glowed across the wall, each one showing a different section of the estate. There, on screen 7, was Jasmine, or Julia, sitting in a padded therapy room. She looked calm, blank. She was humming something. The nurse raised the volume. Sunshine, sunshine, ladybugs awake. Tanya collapsed into the nearest chair. That was the lullaby she used to sing to Jasmine before bedtime. Even after 15 years, she remembered. The nurse motioned toward a drawer, pulled out a small flash drive. This is one of her old session recordings. Watch it. But you have to go. He checks the feeds every hour. Tanya inserted the drive. On screen, Jasmine, months younger, long hair down, looking lost. She stared into the camera. I keep having the same dream. I'm holding a smoothie. Then I hear my mom's voice. I turn, but she's gone. Then she began to cry. Who am I really? They tell me I'm Julia. But sometimes I see a mall. The screen cut to black. Suddenly, red lights flickered through the hallway. A deep alarm began to blare across the estate. Security breach. Secure all exits. The nurse panicked. He knows. You have to leave. If he catches you, he'll erase this too. Everything. Tanya backed away, gripping the flash drive like her life depended on it. I'm not leaving her. Then you'll have to fight for her, the nurse said, voice shaking. And you better be ready, because he's already on his way. The nurse ushered Tanya into a tunnel concealed behind the cleaning closet. Follow the red pipe. It leads out to the woods. Will you help me get her out? I've waited years for someone to come for her. Yes. Tanya sprinted through the tunnel, every step echoing behind her. The air was thick, her lungs burning, but she didn't stop. As she reached the woods, she collapsed behind a tree, pulling out her phone. There was one unread message from an unknown number. You have 24 hours to walk away, or you'll lose more than just your daughter. Tanya stared at the estate in the distance, and whispered to herself, You already took her once. Not again. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, ready to run, but froze. Standing just 10 feet away was Jasmine, older, confused, eyes wide, and then she spoke. Why do you look like the woman in my dreams? Tanya couldn't breathe, not from fear, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer weight of that moment, standing face to face with a daughter she buried in her prayers 15 years ago, who was now alive, yet didn't know who she was. Jasmine, the woman flinched. No, my name is Julia. That's what my husband told me. Who are you? Tanya's lips trembled. I'm your mother. Jasmine, no, Julia, stepped back. Her hands shook. She clutched a pendant around her neck as if it anchored her to a reality she was struggling to hold on to. You're mistaken. My parents died in a car accident. I don't know you. But her eyes told a different story. A flicker, a pause, a war between memory and programming. Tanya took out the photo she kept in her coat pocket, worn, edges curled, Jasmine in her yellow hoodie, beaming. You were 16. That day at the mall, you waved goodbye. I never saw you again. Julia's breath hitched. I've seen this in my dreams. This picture. But how? Carmen, the ex-staff member who had helped Tanya gain access, found them minutes later and ushered both into an off-grid guest house deep in the woods, a place she used when she escaped the estate herself. Julia sat in silence, staring at the photo, tracing the image with her fingers. He told me dreams are just echoes, that they don't mean anything. Carmen spoke gently. He trained you to believe that. It's called reprogramming, repetition, sensory deprivation, suggestion, medication. He rewrote your life. Julia looked up, voice barely a whisper. Then who am I? The next morning, Carmen revealed she had stolen something even more dangerous than a keycard. A tablet device loaded with archived therapy sessions, each one marked with a name and date. They found Jasmine's. The files were horrifying. Session 1. My name is Jasmine Willis. I'm 16. I don't know where I am. Session 7. They say my name is Julia now. They say my mother hurt me, but I don't believe it. Session 12. I don't want to be Jasmine anymore. Jasmine was scared. Julia is safe. Session 18. Soft humming. Her lullaby again. Julia slammed the tablet shut, shaking. He made me forget her. He made me hate my real life. Tanya moved to comfort her, but Julia backed away. How do I know you're really my mother? Tanya pulled something from her bag. It was a tiny baby sock, faded pink, from a hospital in Atlanta, still marked with Jasmine's name and birth date. You came home in this. Julia covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. I remember the smell. I thought it was a dream. Alan Madsen watched the security feed with cold precision. Julia had breached the perimeter. Someone had helped her. His voice was calm, but final. Find her, bring her back, and erase whoever helped her. Behind him, 2 men in tactical gear nodded and disappeared into the shadows. That evening, the 3 women sat in silence. Then Julia began to speak, slowly, quietly. I remember the smoothie. I remember Coach Daniels. I remember getting dizzy outside the fitting room. Then Nothing. Like a switch flipped off in my head. She paused. When I woke up, he was there. Dr. Madsen. He said I'd been abandoned. That my old life was too painful to remember. She began to cry. He told me pain was fiction. Tanya wrapped her arms around her daughter. No, pain is real, but so is truth. And it's time you get yours back. Carmen leaned in. We have enough evidence on this tablet to go public. News media, authorities, everything. But we have to get it out of the estate's signal range. Everything here is blocked. Scrambled. Julia wiped her tears. Then we take it to the press. I want the world to know who I really am. Tanya nodded. We bring him down together. But before they could move, thud, thud, thud. The front door shook violently. Carmen's eyes widened. He found us. The door burst open. 3 masked men rushed in with tranquilizers and zip ties. Carmen grabbed the tablet and fled through the back. Tanya held Julia tightly, trying to protect her. But one of the men struck Tanya across the head with a baton. She collapsed. Julia screamed. Mom! The last thing Tanya saw before blacking out was Julia being dragged away, kicking and screaming. And then, darkness. Tanya's eyes fluttered open. Her head throbbed. Her wrists were bound. Her vision blurred. She was back inside the estate. The walls were sterile, cold. A soft humming came from above, like a machine breathing. Then she heard it. A voice through the wall. Familiar. Frightened. Please, don't make me forget again. It was Jasmine. Dr. Alan Madsen stood in the next room, face illuminated by tablet light. You had a breakthrough, Julia. But that's all it was. A false flood of memories. Your mother's dead. You were abandoned. I saved you. Jasmine clutched the baby sock in her hand. You didn't save me. You stole me. Madsen's expression flickered. You were broken. I rebuilt you. And if you can't accept that, then I'll rebuild you again. He tapped a button on his screen. The lights in Jasmine's room dimmed. The walls began to pulse with low, rhythmic tones. The reprogramming had begun. In her holding room, Tanya worked at her restraints with a jagged piece of metal she had hidden in her sock during her initial break-in. Her wrists bled, but the plastic snapped. She burst out into the corridor, bloodied but determined. She followed the sound of humming, the lullaby. Sunshine, sunshine, ladybugs awake. She turned a corner and stopped. Ahead of her, a security guard stood at the door to Jasmine's therapy chamber. She reached for a fire extinguisher, crept up behind him. Wham! He hit the floor with a dull thud. Tanya burst into the room. Jasmine sat in the chair, eyes flickering. Music tones pulsing. Tanya screamed her name. Jasmine! Jasmine! Look at me! She rushed forward, grabbed her face. Remember this. You're not Julia. You're my daughter. We used to dance in the kitchen. You loved strawberry milk. You got that scar falling off your bike in 3rd grade. Baby, please come back. Tears streamed down Jasmine's cheeks. Mama. The machine stuttered. Then Jasmine blinked. Mama. She leapt forward, embracing her mother as the room's systems short-circuited. The past crashed into the present. And Jasmine remembered. With Carmen's help, they escaped once again, this time with security footage, therapy recordings, and years' worth of internal documents stored on the recovered tablet. Tanya and Jasmine contacted a journalist Tanya had once begged for help all those years ago. Nora Grant, now head of a national investigative team. Within 72 hours, the story broke wide. Exclusive. Tech billionaire accused of identity erasure and illegal psychological experiments. Images of Jasmine, then and now, filled every news outlet. The world listened. The world wept. And the world acted. FBI agents raided the estate. They uncovered 7 additional women, each with altered names, false memories, and carefully crafted fake histories. Dr. Madsen was charged with kidnapping, unlawful experimentation, psychological torture, and human trafficking. His empire crumbled. And for the first time in 15 years, Tanya and Jasmine stood in the sun together, hand in hand, as free women. Jasmine sat across from Nora Grant on national television. She spoke not as Julia, not as a victim, but as Jasmine Willis. They tried to take away my past, but memories live in places no machine can touch. In smells, in songs, in a mother's voice. I'm not broken. I was never broken. I was just waiting to be found. Tanya watched from backstage, crying quietly. It was late afternoon. Tanya and Jasmine sat on a park bench together, sipping smoothies. The same flavor Jasmine used to love, strawberry and banana. A breeze passed between them. You okay? Tanya asked gently. I'm learning. I lost 15 years. But I didn't lose you. They smiled. Then Jasmine leaned in, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. Sometimes the people we love get lost. Lost to the world, to pain, to manipulation. But love doesn't forget. Real love keeps searching. It keeps knocking on locked doors, tearing down walls, facing down giants. Because the truth is, no one is too far gone to come home. Jasmine Willis was legally restored as a citizen under her true name. Dr. Alan Madsen awaits trial on 42 federal charges. Tanya and Jasmine now speak to trauma survivors around the country, sharing their story of loss, survival, and hope. Familiar. Frightened. Please, don't make me forget again. It was Jasmine. Dr. Alan Madsen stood in the next room, face illuminated by tablet light. You had a breakthrough, Julia. But that's all it was. A false flood of memories. Your mother's dead. You were abandoned. I saved you. Jasmine clutched the baby sock in her hand. You didn't save me.